welcome to this Woman Wednesday edition of Liquid Lunch on Newsmax TV. Dow down just slightly, $1.44. Bitcoin holding its own. We don't have a lot of time. We have a big day today. It's Woman Wednesday. It's usually a fire show. Today, it's a big, hot, fire-breathing dragon of a show. We'll get to all that. We're going to bring in, as I do, my managing editor, Frank Morano, joins me again today. And Robert Mueller is down in Washington getting grilled. He's trying to stick within the four corners, but he's definitely going out of bounds from what I've been listening to it and watching it all morning. Frankie, I don't know what you think.
Well, we're going to have wall-to-wall analysis from the best female political and legal team on television, so you people are going to want to stay tuned for that. But even more impressive than Mueller Day, two very important holidays that we're celebrating today, John. And no, I'm not talking about Jennifer Lopez turning 50 and joining AARP, or Michael Richards, the Emmy Award-winning actor, turning 70. But today is not only National Tequila Day. Thank you, Question for making this possible. But today is National Cousins Day, and I personally would like to wish a special happy National Cousins Day to my three first cousins, Joanne, Gina, and Natalie.
In keeping with the seriousness of the Mueller grilling down in Washington, happy birthday to the Morano cousins. Very important viewers of the show, big supporters. Frankie, I really want to, let's dip in. We can go in whenever we want. We're going to be listening to it in our ear as we give you all the coverage to go along with that in a little sidecar. But let's go in now and see where they're at with Robert Mueller.
The president took full advantage of that confusion by falsely claiming your report found no obstruction. Let us be clear, your report did not exonerate the president. Instead, it provided substantial evidence of obstruction of justice, leaving Congress to do its duty. We shall not shrink from that duty. I yield back.
The gentlelady yields back.
Mr. Chairman, I have a point of inquiry over on your left.
Gentleman will state his point of inquiry.
Was the point of this hearing to get Mr. Mueller to recommend impeachment?
That is not a fair point of inquiry. The gentlelady from Florida is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, wait
Director Mueller,
Mr. Chairman.
To your
point, the gentlelady from Florida is recognized.
For coming here, you're a patriot. I want to refer you now to Volume 2, page 158. You wrote that, quote, the president's efforts to influence the investigation were mostly unsuccessful, but that is largely because the persons who surrounded the president declined to carry out orders or accede to his requests. Is that right?
That is accurate, and that is what we found.
And you're basically referring to senior advisors who disobeyed the president's orders, like White House counsel Don McGahn, former Trump campaign manager Corey Lewandowski. Is that right?
Well, we have not specified the persons mentioned.
Well, in page 158, White House counsel Don McGahn, quote, did not tell the acting attorney general that the special counsel must be removed, but was instead prepared to resign over the president's orders. You also explained that an attempt to obstruct justice does not have to succeed.
True.
Simply attempting to obstruct justice can be a crime, correct?
Yes.
So even though the president's aides refused to carry out his orders to interfere with your investigation, that is not a defense to obstruction of justice by this president, is it?
I'm not going to speculate.
So to reiterate, simply trying to obstruct justice can be a crime, correct?
Yes.
And you say that the president's efforts to influence the investigation were, quote, mostly unsuccessful. And that's because not all of his efforts were unsuccessful, right?
You're reading into what we have written in the report.
I was going to ask you if you could just tell me which ones you had in mind as successful when you wrote that sentence.
I'm going to pass on that.
Yeah. Director Mueller, today we've talked a lot about the separate acts by this president, but you also wrote in your report that, quote, the overall pattern of the president's conduct towards the investigations can shed light on the nature of the president's acts, and the inferences can be drawn about his intent, correct?
Accurate recitation from the report.
Right, and on page 158, again, I think it's important for everyone to note that the president's conduct had a significant change when he realized that the investigations were conducted to investigate his obstruction acts. So in other words, when the American people are deciding whether the president committed obstruction of justice, they need to look at all of the president's conduct and overall pattern of behavior. Is that correct?
I don't disagree.
Thank you. Dr. Mueller, Director
Thing
Mueller.
in my ear. Hello, welcome back. Joining us is Susan Settenbrino, and Susan is a former prosecutor, an esteemed attorney, and the author of Unchecked Power.
The Unchecked Power guy.
That's right. Susan's been on the show before. Thank you for coming back.
Thank you.
I've been listening to this all morning, making notes and hearing both sides of the story and the whole thing. But just now we tuned in, and we can't see who's questioning, right?
Okay.
We can only hear the voice, right?
All right, yes.
And I know by the tone of the voice and the similarity of the questions I've heard already that is a Democrat speaking.
Right, yes. There's a very clear pattern going on here. First of all, today, I have to say, as a former prosecutor, as an attorney of over 20 years, it's very clear that Trump is completely vindicated. And let's just call Trump Make America Great. He has had such...
And he, too, did not serve in Vietnam, like the real Muhammad Ali.
Okay.
That's right.
But that's not where I'm heading, because anybody else, look at
well, Susan, let me ask you this, because this is, as a layman, okay, I'm looking at this thing and I'm thinking, all right, so they're all in agreement there was no conspiracy. Conspiracy was the only thing that was a potential chargeable crime, right? So now I'm the president of the United States. Imagine my wildest dreams. And I know I did not collude. Right. And that's exactly what the report says. No collusion, any American citizen, including the president. I know I didn't do it. And now all these idiots that work for me are trying to start an internal investigation of me.
You're being nice. These are not idiots.
What I'm saying, okay, I'm putting it into a business setting. My employees, who I can tell anything I want as the president, are doing a new investigation, and I tell my right-hand man, tell them to cut the crap, okay?
Yeah, right.
Tell them to cut the crap, period, the end.
Can I just say it's so much
How
more
can he obstruct if there's no crime? That's my question.
First of all, it's clear. If you listen from the beginning, Mueller made it clear that he never did a criminal investigation into obstruction.
That's right.
Okay, so he made that clear. Now, according to everybody, there's only 3 elements that he had to consider. And to say, I didn't do it, but here, if I did it, are the reasons why I would impeach him is really very concerning, and it just further shows why the bias and the political agenda of this entire fiasco. And it's not about Trump; it's about the American people and what he's done to them.
Frankie. Earlier today, they were saying that Ken Starr, although it was a different standard when he was investigating Bill Clinton, he was an independent counsel, so he reported to Congress. But Ken Starr said that he thought they rose to impeachable offenses. And I think the Republicans did score some points today by saying, well, if you didn't exonerate him and the only other body for him to be tried would be impeachment, why didn't you use language like Ken Starr and say it rose to impeachable? Was it impeachable? He said, I stick to what I said.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that's so frustrating to me, Susan, is it seems like this isn't something that should be a partisan affair. Either something's a crime or it's not. And yet we see all the Republicans questioning Mueller, doing whatever they can to erode his credibility and question the very integrity of the probe, and all the Democrats questioning him, trying to build him up as this hero, and at the same time get him to agree with their conclusions that, oh, yeah, the president did actually obstruct justice. As a lawyer and a prosecutor, formerly a prosecutor yourself, does that bother you, the degree to which this has become a partisan affair?
Absolutely. It's very dangerous. I believe that everything that's happening, including what's happening to the police, all trickles down from this. They are setting the groundwork that you can use offices. If you don't like the president, if you don't like the lawyer, if you don't like a judge, if you don't like the police, you could use things in an improper way because you have been given power and you've been given opportunity to do so. It's very clear that Mueller had no it's not about him to exonerate somebody who's not found guilty of a crime. He's by definition exonerated.
Well, we're all exonerated until we're guilty, right?
Exactly.
The question that the congresswoman from Florida
completely exonerated.
Exactly. Why not?
Well, I don't know.
Right now.
I'd have to think about that. Let me
I'm
get
trying to get one person
my
on the
people will
record to
talk
say
to
I'm
your people.
exonerated.
Maybe some
Yeah.
fashion crimes.
And what
But
people talk about my people.
Susan, the congresswoman from Florida that we were just watching, she basically seemed to try to get Mueller to agree that Trump thinking about firing Don McGahn or getting Don McGahn to fire Mueller would have been obstruction of justice. Do you share that view that that would have been obstruction of justice if Don McGahn, the White House counsel, had followed through on what the president wanted him to do and fired Mueller in the midst of this investigation? Would that have been obstruction?
I think this whole hearing evidences why he should have been fired, why not $1 of the American funds should have been spent on him. He can't even address how this investigation got started. He should be able to tell the public, this is why we used $25 million over 24 FBIs and attorneys.
No
It's
doubt,
a disgrace,
no doubt.
okay?
There was an important thing that the Democrats said, too, just to keep it square. They recovered about $40 million from Paul Manafort. So they're saying, well, if we spent 40, we got 40 million, so it didn't cost us anything.
That's
fair
baloney.
enough.
No.
But in the final 30 seconds, the third point, he says in his report, circumstantial evidence could establish the inference of intent. So circumstantial establishment of an inference of intent. Couple sentences. How horrible is that?
It's all smoke and mirrors nonsense. It's all about impeachment. It's all about talking points to keep it going, to ruin his presidency and to make sure he doesn't get reelected. That's all it is. This is so lawless. This is so dangerous. And I think we should have a real show and break it down for the people as how dangerous this is.
Well, this is a real show.
Yeah,
I mean, we're
a
still
real
on. It's
show
our third
totally
month. But
devoted to that.
Susan Settembrino always brings us the real deal. You stay right there. More Mueller coverage coming up right after this.